When you think about Ant's growth in his leadership, and he talked about he's really figuring out what to say to certain players and how to say that, is that one of the examples that you would use as what you see as his growth, or what examples would you use?
Yeah, that's a great example. I think his intentionality around a lot of things this season has been great. The thought that goes into it, knowing that he has to step forward to actually be more of a leader with his voice. He's always going to be a leader with his game, because when you have a guy like him, people believe they can win, and he empowers his teammates through his energy and his attitude and that. But keeping his teammates positive. We've had a number of discussions this season on, messaging on what he needs to try to impart to different guys, and he's come to me with some really good examples of messages that he's been imparting to them. So it's great. 23-year-old, and it's fun to watch him grow in every way.
And in looking at game one and some of the three-point shots that your team was able to generate from the corners, there was like big gaps of like 8 feet and more in some of those. Can you talk about how they were able to get that space, and what you would, in the adjustments being made tonight, what you would expect for tonight?
I think, I don't know. We did a good job of moving, playing well off the ball, making the play, making the pass at the right time, understanding, where the traffic was going to be. I don't know what adjustments specifically to expect around that. Maybe they'll stay home, maybe they'll close out a little harder. I don't know. We'll just have to feel our way through it. We've seen a lot of different things. Ant's seen a ton of different looks this year, so I feel confident that once he sees it enough times, he'll figure it out. So,
Chris, you said after game one that you felt like you left meat on the bone, and if the threes don't fall at the rate they did, what kind of other things do you think you can get to, or you want to see offensively?
Yeah, well, we were terrible finishing around the paint. We weren't very good at finishing in the paint at the rim. I thought we fouled a lot defensively. I thought transition, we did an okay job, but I thought there were some things we could have done better there. Some of our coverages, specifically around Luka, were a little bit hit and miss. I think we tightened some of that stuff up. So, should I go on?
If you want to. We got plenty of time.
Yeah.
So this is an odd question following up on what you just said
Okay.
to John. But JJ was just in here, obviously.
Yes.
And a lot of his answers to a lot of different questions were just, we were undisciplined, we made mistakes,
Yeah.
we cleaned that up over the last 2 days, all of that stuff. Despite
Mm-hmm.
your analysis just now, there was a lot of the game you guys were very disciplined for.
Yes.
And Ant in particular
Yes.
felt like he had a very disciplined game. How do you make sure that, especially where there's a natural letdown of like, hey, we got one on the road, to keep that level of discipline up
Yeah.
the way you guys really have to win?
Yeah, I think for us, it's what we've been preaching since the matchup was revealed to us, that we knew we had to be super disciplined in the things we were going to have to accomplish defensively, in particular, just because of the problems that they present with such two great players, LeBron and Luka, who can control the game with the ball in their hands at all the time. So discipline has not been our forte at times this year, for sure. But guys have been dialed in, and they did do a large part. They did do a good job of executing the game plan on both ends.
Hey Chris,
Yes.
one of the ways that Ant has shown leadership is that he's very quick to point the finger at himself. What have you seen behind the scenes in terms of how much responsibility he takes for his own play?
Yeah, he's been doing that, since I've been with him. Really has. I think it starts with his ability and willingness to be coached hard, held accountable. He's not afraid of accepting responsibility, as you say. It's one of the things that endears him to his teammates. He knows that it's going to always start and end with the best players who have the most responsibility, and I think it's genuine. A lot of times it does. Might not, I've been on teams where your best players might take accountability, but it doesn't feel genuine. With him, it does for sure.
Jaden's been a lot more consistent in the second half of the season here, but with him and Nas, it always seems like it's been the biggest challenge is following up one or two great performances with another. What drives consistency in your mind? How do they attain that?
Yeah, I think putting the effort into the small pieces of the game. I think those guys definitely have to do that. It's about their activity, getting out, crashing, moving around the floor, staying ready, just staying in the flow of the game. Sometimes those guys will, hunt their offense a little bit too much, and I think they'll play themselves out of rhythm. But, lately they've just been in a really good groove.
Luka getting 1 assist was kind of like a neon stat in that game. You mentioned defensive discipline pregame as a priority. How much of what happened dynamically had to do with your defense? How much on their side of the ball was it? And you think adjustments will be made on both sides?
Well, to get stats, people got to make shots, and it's not like they didn't get some good looks. They just didn't go in. So I think that's a little bit of an overblown stat there. We expect them to be a little bit more aggressive in transition to start the game. We do expect Luka to try to get his teammates involved a little bit more early, probably. But he still had a heck of a game for himself. So we'll have to just see.
Chris, how much emphasis do you put on a team that lost their first game at home, probably more desperation tonight? Is that something that you caution that whatever it looked like in game one can look completely different just because there's a little lack of a desperation from the Lakers?
Yeah, I think for sure. We understand that. We understand this is an outstanding opponent led by two amazing players. We expect a huge fight back and a big start by them. Right now, this team's good enough to come to Minnesota and win games. It's not, there's no certainty here. So we expected it a long series when we started, and we expect a tough game tonight.
Chris, obviously you guys had a chance with Luka last year in the Western Conference Finals. Boston has some similar switchable pieces and versatile defenders as you guys do. How valuable was that film in addition to your film and prep for this series?
The Boston film?
Yeah.
We looked at it a little bit, but I wouldn't say, they do have, they have a 1 through 5 switching almost everywhere. I think with looking back at our film against Dallas was probably more revealing to us. We let Luka control too much of what he was wanting to do and got to what he wanted to do in the series. He's an incredible player. You're really not going to stop him. It's the things that we maybe picked last season to live with were the wrong things, and we weren't, to the discussion of earlier, disciplined enough, and we kind of let him lead the dance, and that's not a good place to be. So. Thanks.